So PlayStation has officially made announcement through a job listing that they are going to be going multi-platform. And I think Sony has officially seen the writing on the wall over the last couple of years with their PC releases of their first party games like Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War Ragnarok, God of War 2018, and as well as Uncharted and quite a few others, including The Last of Us. I think Sony has actually started to see the writing on the wall. But then you also got Xbox that has just started releasing its games on the Nintendo platforms, such as the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2, and as well as the PlayStation 5, and they have been some of the best, if not the best top-selling games on the PlayStation 5, like Forza Horizon 5 is definitely one of the top best-selling games on the PlayStation 5. Like, it's like not in there in the top 20, it's more up there in like the top 5. So Sony has actually started to see the writing on the wall. Then you also have to look at game budgets going sky high, just skyrocketing through the roof, that is just taking like 300, 4, even upwards to $500 million to produce. So that's insane, a lot of money to make a game. So we're going to show you this job listing that's got Sony basically showing off and announcing its multi-platform strategy that will be indeed coming up very, very soon. And a lot of PlayStation fans are losing their minds, and I just don't understand why that they just think that this is a stupid move, and they just think that they're, so important, this and that, because they bought that system. So let's show you this strategy from Sony. So it goes out to, and it says, PlayStation job listing reviews. They are planning to go multi-platform to Xbox and Nintendo too, which Nintendo got the Lego Horizon game late last year, I believe it was. So the PlayStation audience has actually seen this coming within the last couple of years, especially with their PC releases that have been really successful. But it goes on to say, it says, what does Sony say specifically? The job listing says, reporting to the Vice President, Commercial Management as Senior Director of Multi-Platform Account Management, you will play a crucial leadership role in shaping the global commercial strategy for PlayStation Studios software titles across all digital platforms beyond PlayStation hardware, including Steam, Epic Games Store, Xbox hardware, Nintendo hardware, and as well as mobile. So, how dedicated is Sony to multi-platform? Well, it starts on and says, the new employee will have these responsibilities. Oversee the out-of-year mid-range commercial strategy for PlayStation Studio titles across all non-PlayStation platforms, driving long-term revenue growth and audience reach. So that's really what makes the most sense, because they're going to sell more copies and they're going to get more people to play the game. And then if a game like for an example, like Call of Duty, like Microsoft owns that series through Activision Blizzard, so every copy that has been sold for Call of Duty and every microtransaction that game gets sold into the game, Microsoft gets a cut of that money. So that is why I think Sony is doing it too, because you gotta think, like, game budgets are going through the roof like crazy, and only having a small player base or small amount of sales, it's just not going to really cut into that. Although, I will mention about how I think that both Microsoft and Sony should go about this after we show the rest of this. So continues on and says, partner with making product in global publishing teams to develop in an coherence, launch plans, and lifecycle strategies for multi-platform titles, lead platform relationships across PC and console ecosystems, Steam, Epic, Xbox, Nintendo, ensuring strong collaboration, promotional effectiveness, and performance optimization. The listing also shows they already have 2 employees dedicated to Xbox and PC. There is a senior manager, I was about to say management there, for platform sales, and a manager for platform planning and performance. And then the last bit goes on here and it says, how did Sony get here? Sony has made a business of making games exclusive to PlayStation that includes both their titles their own studios make and even broader range of third-party titles. In 2020, Sony published Horizon Zero Dawn to Steam. This started Sony's slow movement into publishing more of their games onto PC. It also started a month before Microsoft announced they would be acquiring ZeniMax Media. Sony also started allowing or licensing PlayStation exclusive games to be released on multiple platforms. Recently, Bandai Namco announced Patapon 1 and 2 Replay and Everybody's Golf Hot Shots, both releasing this year, but it's also possible this already started in 2018 when Bandai Namco released Luminous Remastered and Katamari Damacy, however you pronounce that word, re-roll. So clearly this is actually what is going on. And yes, Sony has actually released its first-party games on PC since 2020 during COVID, and that was really kind of like impacting like PlayStation sales and all that stuff. So I think the COVID is another big reason why Sony went with multi-platform and started releasing some of its games on PC, because especially when you think about when the PS5, Xbox Series X first launched, it was really hard to get one of those consoles. Goodly, I was actually lucky to get one on both launch days, but there was like millions upon millions that could not get either of those two. So the only way they were able to sell games and make somewhat a more profit from not being able to sell as many consoles was to just release the games on PC, because there was already a lot of people that already had PCs at the time. So it truthfully makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm going to also mention, or we're going to discuss about the way that I personally think that Sony and Microsoft should actually appeal to this. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of PlayStation fanboys and Xbox fanboys out there that are just going to be whatever about their own games going to other platforms, because it's just really stupid to be tied to like a brand loyalty, something like that. But what I think Sony's actually doing this currently right now. Microsoft, I don't personally think is doing this, but this is what I personally think that they should both do, is if they want to find a way to still have some exclusivity while being multi-platform, I think that they should just release the games on their own platforms first within 1 to at most 2 years, and then later on release those to the other platforms. I'd probably say maybe 1 year. But at this rate, people, if they really want to play that game on launch day or sometime just like a little bit after it comes out, they would have to go buy that system, whether if it's a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X or Xbox Series S. Now, this does not include Nintendo. So just to clear that up there, Nintendo is going to stick with its exclusivity and just make its games only for its console or its platform. So this has got nothing to do with Nintendo, just to throw that out there. But that's what I personally think that Microsoft and Sony should do. And I think Sony is indeed going to do that, because Helldivers 2 has been out for a little over a year, and it just got an Xbox release window that's coming August sometime. And I think that's what Sony is planning on doing. Microsoft, on the other hand, I honestly don't think that they're doing that. I think because if you look, like Gears of War E-Day, or not Gears of War E-Day, Gears of War 1 Reloaded, that game is coming out next month, and it's already coming day to date on the PlayStation 5. But then again, they've had games like Stalker 2 and Starfield that's still only on the Xbox platform currently. But then again, Microsoft might actually be doing that, especially with Stalker 2, a recently released game that also just got announced a few weeks ago to be coming to the PlayStation 5 later this year, that's already been out since November. So I think it's personally smart that both of these companies are doing this, and I know there's probably going to be people in the comment section, and I'm just going to flat out say it. You can say I'm a Xbox fanboy, PlayStation Sony pony. You can just say whatever the heck you want about this, but I honestly think that this is smart with the way that the gaming industry is going, and with game budgets going high, like sky high, rocketing through the roof. I think this is absolutely smart and really best for business between both sides. But like I stated, I think that Sony and Microsoft, with their own first-party games, they should just release them on their platforms for the first year that they have been out. So that way, it at least helps, in a way, entice people to either pick up an Xbox if they want to play that game as early as launch day. The same thing with PlayStation. Even though I think PlayStation could probably get away with releasing its first-party games day and date on both PlayStation, or not PlayStation, of course on PlayStation, but on Xbox and as well as the Nintendo Switch 2, I think Sony could easily get away with it and still, like, just sell PlayStations left and right, because the PlayStation hardware is just always going to probably be really popular no matter what the odds are. Because if you look, PlayStation 1 was like the best-selling system that time. PlayStation 2 is still the number one best-selling system. PlayStation 3 did decently well, and it surpassed the Xbox 360. PlayStation 4 was a huge success for Sony, and the PlayStation 5 is just selling like hotcakes. So I personally think Sony's got no problem with still selling PlayStation hardware, even if they were to release their first-party games day and date on the other platforms like the Nintendo Switch 2 and the Xbox Series X. But that's what I think that Sony and Microsoft honestly should do, so that way they have somewhat of an enticement for people to pick up either one of those systems if they want to play the game as early as possible, launch day, or before that first year's up. Which I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, no, I'll just wait for the year till it comes out later, or whatnot. But at least it would at least help entice some people to pick up one of those consoles that don't have them, and then after that first year, they'll release it on there, and then they'll also start selling more copies because of the people on there and whatnot. But with all that being said, Sony is definitely going multi-platform starting now, and I think it's a really smart business move, honestly. I personally like the exclusivity because it helped sell the consoles, but I think we're getting to the point where the developers and the publishers that are making these games, they have to make the profits back ASAP because of how high game budgets are going on, and this is the only way to do it. Now, Nintendo's games do not cost nowhere near as much as what the games on Xbox and PlayStation actually make, so Nintendo is fine. But Microsoft, Xbox, and Sony PlayStation, yeah, they definitely have to both go multi-platform in order to sell more copies and make more profit because of how high game budgets are going. I hate to say it, it's just time. they gotta make the money somehow. They can't just stay loyal to one person, or I should say a set of people, if it's not going to make them money. It's just business at this point, and they're not your friend. They're here to make money and to sell as many copies as they actually can. That's what they're here for, to sell as many copies and make as much money as they can. So I think this is a smart business move for both Microsoft as well as now Sony PlayStation. So that's going to pretty much wrap it up for this video. So if you could, smack that like button. Also, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and we will keep you posted with more content going forward. And let us know in the comment section down below of your thoughts of Sony officially now going multi-platform from this announcement of a job listing that has been showed off from Sony themselves. You let us know in the comment section down below of your thoughts of Sony going multi-platform. Tech and gaming reviews here. Rate, comment, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.